Hello and welcome to Teach the Table. I'm Nathan and this is Orléans, or Orleans if you're doing it wrong. Set in medieval France, each player has a bag of characters to send out and compete for dominance by developing their territory and building trading houses, as well as gaining coins, goods, and citizens. At the end of 18 rounds, these elements are scored and a winner is crowned. Each round has 7 phases, but to understand those, you need to see how the characters work. On the left side of the board are various tracks for each character. You have a farmer, craftsman, trader, boatman, knight, and scholar. Each time you gain a new character, that's added to your bag, and your marker moves 1 space to the right, and you get a benefit that's above that space that you're on now. If your marker is the first to land on one of these citizen tiles, then you get to gain that tile. And there are also monks up here, which act like wilds, and they can replace any of the other characters during the main actions of the game, but it doesn't have a track when you take them. So back to the 7 phases of a round. First, the starting player reveals the top hourglass token from the top of the board up here, and these are events which will usually happen at the end of a round so that you have time to plan for that. The exception is the pilgrimage here, which will always be the first tile of the game, and it indicates that you can't take any monks in this round, so there's no other event to resolve later on in the round. Next is the census, where we compare how many farmers each player has. So the player who's furthest along on the number of farmers will gain 1 coin, and the player who's furthest behind will lose 1 coin. If there's a tie in either aspect, that will simply cancel out that benefit or that penalty. Side note here that in a 2-player game, you do not play with the penalty, so it's only the player who's furthest ahead gaining 1 coin. Phase 3 is where players draw more characters from their bag of followers. We don't do this in the beginning of the game since no one has any followers in there, but what you do is you look at the knight track, see how far along you are, and it tells you how many followers you can draw. So you draw up to that amount of followers randomly out of your bag and place them down in your market on the bottom of your player board to potentially be used later. Of course, if you have less space in your market, or if you have fewer characters in your bag to draw from, you won't be able to draw to your full potential. The next phase is planning, where you simply move characters from your market and place them under any associated action space on their player board. Now, many of the actions require multiple characters before they become active, but you don't need to place all the required characters right now. Just keep in mind that the character you place out there might be stuck there and not come back into your bag until it's completely activated and then the action is carried out. This phase is usually done simultaneously to save time, but any player can ask to play this in turn order if their play depends on what other players are choosing at this time. Phase 5 is carrying out any actions that are activated on your boards. Starting with the start player and moving clockwise around the table, players are going to take turns just taking 1 action at a time until all players have passed. Once an action is carried out, the character tiles that you use there are going to go back into your bag to be drawn later. You're not required to use all the actions that are activated on your board, so you can always pass and carry out an action later on in a different round. Some of the actions will allow you to take a new character tile: the farmhouse, village, castle, and monastery. So you simply take the character tile from the supply, place it in your bag, and don't forget about the track associated with that character. The farmer will grant you a type of a good, the boatman will grant you a number of coins, and the craftsman lets you take one of these technology tiles. These are taken and placed next to your board, and after you've passed, you can use it to place on any character spot under an action on your board. That basically replaces that character so you never have to put one there again. As indicated on the board, the first technology tile you take has to be used to replace a farmer. And also, as indicated there, they can never be used to replace a monk, since a monk is quite powerful. Other rules about technology tiles is they can't be used if there's only 1 character required for an action, since that would just let you keep taking that action over and over and over and over. And also, there can only be a maximum of 1 technology under each action, so you could never fill in 2 or 3 here. The trader lets you choose a new place tile, either from stack 1 or stack 1 and 2, and those are located here. What you get to do is look through the entire associated stack and choose one that you like. And what these are new actions that you can place next to your board that you can take. The scholar lets you move your little marker here a number of spots along what's called the development track. So this may grant you coins or increase your development status, which are these little symbols here, which will get you points at the end of the game and may offer you other benefits. So that's what happens if you grab a new follower tile and you get to move along the track there. There's also some other actions. We have a ship and a wagon, and they let you move your merchant that's up here on this map to any adjacent town. either traveling by water if you use the ship, or traveling by a road if you use the wagon. If there's any goods on the way from the town you're in to the town you're going to, then you get to take one of those goods. So if there's more than one, you need to choose just one that you get to keep. The guild hall action lets you build a little trading station of your color on whatever town your merchant is in up on the map. The limits to this are there can only be one trading station in each town, regardless of what color it is. So if someone else placed one in the town, then you can't place one there, except for in Orléans, where everyone starts. Everyone can have one of their trading stations of their color in there. So in a 3-player game, there can be 3 trading stations of different colors. There's also a scriptorium action, and represented by that book, that indicates that you just get to move one space along the development track, just like what the scholar would grant you up there. The last of the main actions on your board is the town hall, which you can activate with 1 or 2 characters, and these characters are going to be permanently removed from being your followers. They get placed over on this beneficial deeds board that everyone can put their characters on. So you place them in their associated spots, and you usually get a benefit for placing one under each one, depending on which one you choose. You also get a benefit if you fill up that deed entirely. So if you place the last token on there, you also get to take one of these little citizen tiles. On this board, you can't use a monk to replace any other character. Monks would have to just go on a monk tile. And you also can't lose your starting followers. So any of your followers that have your little player color on the bottom, those have to stay in as your followers the whole game. So you cannot lose them over here in this action. So we're almost done. Phase 6 is where the event from the hourglass tile that we flipped over at the beginning of the round is resolved. Pilgrimage, like I mentioned, doesn't have any effect here, so there are a total of 5 possible events that need to be resolved now. The first one is Trading Day. This will get you a coin for each trading house that you've built, and the income one will give you coins equal to your development status. So whatever the most recent little star icon on the development track that you've crossed. The Harvest forces you to discard one of these 3 types of goods or pay 5 money to the bank. Taxes will make you lose 1 money for every 3 good tiles that you have, and the Plague will make you draw 1 random character tile from your bag to be returned to the supply. When you return a character to the supply, you do not move the track backwards, so just leave it where it is. And also keep in mind that you can't lose any of your starting followers. So if you draw one of your starting followers with your little color on there, then you're off the hook. That just goes back in your bag and you don't have to draw anymore. After resolving whichever event it was that you drew this turn, the final phase is simply moving that start player clockwise, and then we start over at the beginning of a new round. There's just a few more nitty-gritty details that I skipped, starting with torture. If you ever need to pay coins and you don't have enough money to do so, then you need to make up for it. So for each coin that's missing, you can choose to pay the bank either one of your trading stations, so either one that you've built or one from your general supply. You can choose to get rid of one of your followers from your bag at random. Again, you can't get rid of one of your starting followers. You just keep drawing until you get one of your non-starting followers. You can move 1 space down on the development track, but you cannot move onto or past one of the little coin spaces on there. You can get rid of one of your goods tiles, a technology tile, or one of your place tiles that you have. Whichever you choose, it's removed from the game permanently. Also, if you ever regret placing a follower onto a certain space, you do have an option of getting it back without using that action. When you're drawing tiles from your bag, you can always choose to draw less in order to take a character from the board and place it back into your market. So if I could draw 4 normally, I can choose just to draw 3, and then I can take one of my other ones back as my 4th one. There's also an optional rule for experienced players to let each player remove one of the place tiles from play at the beginning of the game. This forces some variability and blocks people from doing the same strategy every time. You can decide as a group if you want to do it. I wouldn't recommend doing that until you have a real good grasp on the game first. After 18 rounds of the game, which is indicated by the final hourglass tile being drawn during that round, there's one final citizen tile, which is given to the player who has the most trading houses built on the map up there. Then it's time to award points and find out who won. Each coin that players have at the end of the game is worth 1 point, and each good is worth anywhere from 1 to 5 points depending on the type. And these are in the same order that they are arranged on the game board from lowest to highest, so that makes it a little easier to see that. The last thing that's done is players add up how many trading houses they built as well as how many citizen tiles they have. And they're going to multiply that number by their development status on the development track. That'll give them a number which they add to their coins and their goods points, and whoever has the most is the winner. If there is a tie, the player who's furthest along the development track will break that tie. That's all you need to know in order to get started playing Orléans. Thanks for watching Teach the Table, and don't forget to have fun.